Honey, golden, thick, and glowing in the light like bottled sunshine. For centuries it has symbolized health, healing, and nature's goodness. We pour it on pancakes, swirl it into tea, give it to our kids when they're sick, and treat it like a cleaner, safer alternative to sugar. But here's the uncomfortable question. In today's world, is the honey in your kitchen actually honey? Walk down any supermarket aisle, and you'll see shelf after shelf of pure, organic, natural, and raw honey. Pretty labels, golden color, comforting words. Yet behind that glass, a lot of jars are hiding a sticky secret. In many cases, what you're buying is not what you think it is. You're not just getting honey from bees. You're getting a blend of cheap corn or rice syrup, overheated, overprocessed liquid, and sometimes even traces of pesticides or antibiotics, all dressed up to look like nature's gift. For seniors, kids, and anyone who actually wants honey for its enzymes, antioxidants, and natural healing power, that's not just disappointing, it's a real problem. Fake or heavily processed honey means no real health benefits, just empty calories and possible exposure to contaminants. So, in this video, we're going to talk about 7 types of honey brands and products you should avoid at all costs, and 2 kinds of honey you can actually feel good about buying. You'll learn how to spot the fakes, how to read labels, and how to make sure that the next spoonful you give yourself or your family is the real deal. Let's open the jar and see what's really going on. You probably grew up with one of these, a big, famous brand. The bottle has been in American kitchens for generations. It looks safe because it feels nostalgic. It reminds you of childhood breakfasts, warm toast, and weekend pancakes. But here's the problem. Some long-trusted honey brands have been caught up in serious scandals, including honey tainted with banned antibiotics, contaminated imports from poorly regulated sources, and radio silence instead of clear public apologies or transparent recalls. When a brand quietly keeps selling while questions swirl around safety, that's a huge warning sign. What to do? If a big brand has ever been linked to contamination or banned substances and never properly addressed it, it's time to move on. Trust is fragile, and your health isn't worth the risk. So, a jar that says organic honey sounds perfect, right? In theory, it means a clean environment, no synthetic pesticides, and healthy bees. But, bees don't read labels, and they definitely don't stay inside a fence. They can fly miles in every direction, landing on flowers from fields that may have been sprayed with chemicals. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Even if the hive is managed organically, bees can still bring back nectar contaminated with things like glyphosate and other agricultural chemicals. The result? Well, you end up with a jar that proudly says organic but still contains residues you thought you were avoiding. So what can you do? Don't rely on the word organic alone. Look for brands that publish test results or mention independent lab testing for residues, and, support producers who talk honestly about where their bees forage, not just what's printed on the front label. If your honey is crystal clear, always the same golden color, and never crystallizes, that might look perfect. But in honey, perfection can actually be a bad sign. A lot of cheap honey is ultra-filtered, meaning the natural pollen is completely removed, the honey is heavily processed and heated, and it becomes impossible to trace where it actually came from. Why remove the pollen? Because pollen is like a fingerprint. It can reveal the country and sometimes even the region of origin. When pollen disappears, so does the trail. Some low-quality honey products use this to hide questionable origins, adulteration with corn or rice syrup, and lower standards of safety. In fact, when you remove the pollen and overheat honey, you also destroy many of the enzymes and antioxidants that make honey special. So what should you do? Avoid ultra-filtered honey whenever you can. Look for raw and unfiltered on the label, and honey that may look slightly cloudy or crystallize over time. Those are actually signs of life, not defects. Some brands use flags, national colors, or words like product of country to win your trust. Others come in elegant jars at high prices, marketed as luxury honey. But investigations have shown that in some cases, honey is actually imported from multiple countries. It's then blended, processed, and bottled locally. And clever labeling makes it look like it's purely from one country when it's not. On top of that, the honey often looks suspiciously uniform. Same color, same texture, batch after batch. Real honey doesn't behave like that. Its flavor, color, and thickness can change based on the flowers the bees visit, the season, and the region. So when a premium or patriotic honey looks and tastes identical every single time, you may not be paying for quality. You may just be paying for marketing. Here's what you should do. Turn the jar around and read the back. Watch for phrases like blend of honeys from multiple countries. And yeah, be wary of branding that leans too hard on flags and slogans while saying very little about transparency and testing. We all love a bargain, right? But when it comes to honey, those rock-bottom prices can come with some hidden costs. Many budget store brands have been found to use ultrafiltration, cut real honey with cheaper syrups, and sometimes even show markers of contaminants or heavy metals in lab tests. When honey is overheated and filtered into oblivion, what's left is just a pretty color and a sweet taste, but almost none of the health benefits. No natural enzymes, no real antioxidant power, just sugary liquid. So what can you do? Well, if the price looks too good to be true, it probably is. Don't expect a pure superfood at the same price as pancake syrup. Spend a little more and get something that actually supports your health. Some honeys are imported from regions with looser food regulations or a history of adulteration. Others have been associated with banned antibiotics, contaminants, and misleading purity claims. Yet they sit on the shelf in beautiful jars, wrapped in words like premium, finest, or gourmet. The packaging sells a dream, but what's inside may be a blend of mystery honey from different countries with a quality story that falls apart under scrutiny. So what should you do? Research the brand behind the pretty jar. See if they've had any major scandals, recalls, or lawsuits. Only trust import brands that offer clear, verifiable testing and traceability. And then there's the riskiest of all, unbranded bulk honey. Huge drums, cheap plastic bottles, restaurant supplies, and farmers' markets where nobody can tell you exactly where the bees are or how the honey is tested. In past investigations, large quantities of honey entering the market have been linked to adulteration with cheap syrups, contamination with heavy metals, and even illegal or banned substances. When there's no clear brand, there's no traceability, no accountability, and nobody you can contact if something goes wrong. So, what can you do? Avoid anonymous or unbranded honey. If you're buying from a local seller, ask specific questions like, where are the hives? Do you test your honey? Are you part of any beekeeping association? If they don't have clear answers, that's your sign. After all those red flags, let's talk about the good stuff. Not all honey is a trap. Some producers are doing it right. Here are 2 kinds of honey that are worth your money. This is the kind of honey that, looks slightly cloudy, may have tiny specks of pollen and eventually crystallizes in the jar. And that's good. That means it's alive. The best small and mid-sized brands don't overheat or ultrafilter their honey work with a network of local or regional beekeepers and often send their honey for third-party lab testing and are really proud to share those results. You'll see things like raw and unfiltered, tested for purity and pesticide residues or product of a specific region or country. This kind of honey still contains natural enzymes, antioxidants, trace minerals, and the full fingerprint of real honey. It's better for your health, and honestly, it's a better way to support real beekeeping. Then you have specialty honeys from specific flowers and regions that are tested for their medicinal power. These honeys come with clear certification systems and potency ratings, often list independent testing, batch numbers, and quality grades, and are usually thicker, darker, and have a stronger, more intense taste. They're used not just as a sweetener, but as immune support, natural antibacterial support, and sometimes even in wound care under proper guidance. Yes, they cost more, but in this case, you're paying for verified activity, rigorous testing, and real measurable benefits. If you're buying honey for health, this is the tier you want to be in. Before we wrap up, here are some quick checks you can start with. 1. Read the fine print. Does it say blend of honeys from multiple countries? Is it ultra-filtered or pasteurized at high heat? 2. Look at the texture. If it's too clear, too perfect, never crystallizes, be suspicious. 3. Look for transparency. Does the brand talk about lab testing, origin, and beekeeping practices? And 4. Trust your instincts. If marketing feels louder than information, that's definitely a clue. We've pulled back the curtain on the dark side of honey and highlighted what to look for when you want the real thing. Not all honey is created equal. Your choices affect your health, your family's health, and the beekeepers and ecosystems you support. So don't let clever labels or cheap prices decide for you. Go check your pantry after this video and ask yourself, what's really in my honey jar?